After the Galactic Council slaughters millions, humanity's rage explodes. The alert came at 030 hours. Commander Jake Morrison watched the sensor feed go dark as the colony on New Haven vanished from every scanner. 8 million souls gone in an instant. No distress call. No warning. Just silence where a thriving human settlement had existed moments before. He stood frozen in the command center of Earth Defense Station Alpha, his coffee mug slipping from his fingers and shattering on the deck. Around him, officers frantically worked their consoles, trying to re-establish contact with anyone on the colony world. The communications officer turned to him, her face pale. "Sir, we're picking up a broadcast. It's on all frequencies. It's from them." The main screen flickered to life. A Draxian ambassador appeared, its 4 eyes blinking in sequence, its translator rendering its clicking speech into cold, precise English. The human settlement designated New Haven has been sanitized per Galactic Council Resolution 4719. The species, known as humanity, was warned 3 cycles ago to cease expansion beyond approved boundaries. This action serves as enforcement of galactic law. No further warnings will be issued. The transmission ended. Jake felt something break inside him, something fundamental that had kept him civilized, diplomatic, restrained. His hands gripped the edge of the console until his knuckles went white. Around him, the bridge crew sat in stunned silence. 8 million people. Families, children, scientists, farmers, artists, all dead because humanity had dared to settle one system beyond an arbitrary line drawn by aliens who thought themselves superior. "Get me Admiral Chen," he said quietly. Too quietly. His executive officer, Lieutenant Kate Rivers, moved quickly to comply, recognizing the dangerous edge in his voice. Within minutes, the holographic form of Admiral Lisa Chen materialized in the command center. She already knew. Jake could see it in her eyes, in the set of her jaw. "Commander Morrison, relay all data to Earth Command immediately. I'm issuing a fleet-wide mobilization order. We're going to war." "Yes, ma'am," Jake replied. "What are our rules of engagement?" The Admiral's expression hardened into something that would have frightened the Galactic Council had they seen it. It was the look of humanity pushed beyond its breaking point. The face of a species that had clawed its way up from caves and refused to be cowed by anyone. "There are no rules anymore, Commander. They wanted to see what happens when you slaughter millions of humans. They're about to find out." Jake turned to his crew. Every face showed the same mixture of grief and fury. "All hands to battle stations. Prepare the fleet for immediate deployment. Send encrypted orders to every human ship in the sector. We're taking the fight to them." As alarms blared and the station transformed into a hive of purposeful activity, Jake pulled up the last transmission from New Haven. His sister had lived there with her husband and 2 kids. He'd been planning to visit next month. The screen showed only static now, but he could picture them, laughing at dinner, his niece showing him her drawings, his nephew asking questions about space. The Galactic Council had made a catastrophic miscalculation. They'd treated humanity like any other species in their vast empire, assuming fear would bring compliance. They didn't understand that humans were different. They'd survived ice ages, plagues, wars, and extinction events. They'd split the atom and touched the stars despite every obstacle. And now, for the first time in their existence, they faced an enemy that had united every human under a single burning purpose: revenge. The fleet began to move, hundreds of ships converging on Earth's space. In the command center, Jake watched the tactical display light up with friendly contacts. Civilian freighters were arming themselves. Mining vessels were retrofitting their industrial lasers for combat. Every human with a ship and a weapon was joining the armada. The galaxy had no idea what was coming. But they would learn. Humanity was done playing by their rules. The age of human restraint had ended with New Haven. What came next would be written in the stars themselves, a testament to the terrible price of pushing humanity too far. The war had begun, and it would not end until the Galactic Council learned what 8 million human lives were worth. Jake Morrison stared at the growing fleet on his displays and allowed himself a grim smile. The aliens wanted to see humanity's true nature. They were about to get their wish, and they would regret it for whatever time they had left. The message went out across every human channel, encrypted but unmistakable in its meaning. Earth was calling its children home, not for protection, but for vengeance. And humanity, for all its capacity for love and creation, had an equally profound capacity for wrath. The Galactic Council had awakened something that had slept since humanity reached the stars, something primal and terrible that their ancestors had known well. The hunter, the survivor, the creature that refused to die quietly. 3 hours after New Haven fell, the human fleet jumped to hyperspace, leaving Earth's solar system behind. Their destination was the nearest Galactic Council outpost, a station that housed 10,000 alien bureaucrats who had voted for Resolution 4719. It would be the first to pay, but it would not be the last. Admiral Chen's final words echoed in Jake's mind as they entered the void between stars. Make them remember New Haven. Make them regret they ever heard the name humanity. Show them what happens when you murder our innocent. Show them why Earth is not to be trifled with. The countdown to contact began. In the darkness of hyperspace, surrounded by hundreds of human warships, Jake Morrison prepared to deliver the Galactic Council's first lesson in human warfare. They thought they knew violence. They thought they understood combat. But they had never faced a species that had perfected the art of war over thousands of years, that had built weapons capable of destroying entire worlds, that had looked into the abyss of nuclear annihilation and chosen to weaponize it instead. The Galactic Council was about to learn that there were worse things in the universe than death. There was humanity, angry and unleashed, and that was something no alien species had ever survived intact. The fleet emerged from hyperspace like an avenging storm, and the second chapter of humanity's war for survival began with fire and fury that would echo across the galaxy for generations to come. The Galactic Council's enforcement station Beta hung in orbit around the gas giant Hephaestus Prime, a massive structure of gleaming metal and energy shields that processed complaints and dispensed justice for 36 star systems. It had stood unchallenged for 2 centuries, a symbol of council authority that no species had dared attack. The station's commander, a Valorian named Kresh, monitored his displays with multiple eyes, confident in the invincibility of his post. When the sensors detected the incoming human fleet, he dismissed it as a diplomatic mission, perhaps come to beg for mercy or negotiate terms. He realized his mistake 30 seconds before the first missile struck. The human vessels didn't slow, didn't hail, didn't request permission to approach. They came in fast and angry, weapons hot, targeting solutions already locked. Kresh's mandibles clicked in alarm as he watched over 300 human warships drop out of hyperspace in perfect formation, their weapons arrays glowing with barely contained energy. Raise shields! All defensive batteries online. Send distress signal to Council Fleet Command. Kresh's orders came too late. The humans had planned this perfectly, emerging from hyperspace at the optimal distance to minimize response time while maximizing their tactical advantage. Commander Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the destroyer Vengeance, watching the alien station scramble to mount a defense. He felt nothing but cold determination as he gave the order. All ships, weapons free. Target their shield generators first, then their weapons platforms. No survivors who resist. Those who surrender will be detained for trial. The space around Enforcement Station Beta erupted into chaos. Human railguns fired streams of hypervelocity projectiles that hammered against the station's shields with devastating force. Missile pods opened, releasing swarms of smart warheads that danced and weaved through point defense fire, seeking weak points in the defensive grid. Laser batteries carved through the darkness, intersecting at precise points to overload the alien shield emitters. The station's defenders fought back with everything they had. Plasma cannons spat bolts of superheated matter at the human ships, Energy beams lanced out, cutting through the armor of a frigate and sending it spinning away, venting atmosphere and bodies. 3 human destroyers took direct hits from the station's main battery, their shields collapsing under the onslaught. But for every human ship damaged, 2 more pushed forward, overwhelming the alien defenses through sheer aggression and tactical coordination. Kate Rivers called out damage reports from her station. Vengeance taking hits on the port side. Shields at 60%. Phoenix is down. Life pods are away. Liberty reports critical damage but is still in the fight. "Tell Liberty to fall back to the reserve line," Jake ordered. "All forward elements, concentrate fire on grid section 7. Intelligence says that's where their shield control is located. He watched the tactical display as his orders rippled through the fleet, each ship adjusting its fire pattern with mechanical precision. This was what humanity did best. They adapted. They coordinated. They found the weakness and exploited it without mercy. The station's shields flickered and died under the concentrated assault. Without their protection, the alien structure was naked before human fury. Jake's expression didn't change as he gave the next order. "Target their life support and power generation. Disable but don't destroy. I want prisoners who can tell us everything about Council military deployment." The human ships pressed their advantage, their missiles now punching through the station's hull with terrifying ease. Secondary explosions rippled across the surface as ammunition stores and fuel tanks detonated. Alien crew members fled to escape pods, launching themselves into space and praying the humans would show more mercy than the Council had shown New Haven. Commander Kresh watched his station die around him. Bulkheads collapsed. Fires raged through corridors where his officers had worked minutes before. The humans were methodical, surgical even in their rage, hitting every critical system while avoiding complete destruction. It was almost worse than total annihilation. They wanted the station intact, wanted prisoners to interrogate, wanted to send a message that would spread throughout the galaxy. He reached for the communication panel with a trembling appendage. "This is Commander Kresh to all human vessels. We surrender. Please cease fire. We surrender." The weapon's fire stopped almost instantly, leaving an eerie silence in the void. Jake's voice crackled across all frequencies. "Commander Kresh, this is Commander Jake Morrison of Earth Defense Fleet. You are hereby under arrest for crimes against humanity, specifically your role in authorizing and executing the genocide at New Haven. You and your entire command staff will be transferred to human custody and held for trial. Comply immediately, or we will resume fire." Within an hour, the station was secured. Human Marines in powered armor swept through the corridors, rounding up survivors and securing the facility's data cores. Jake led a team personally to the command center, where Kresh waited under guard, his body language radiating defeat. "Why?" Kresh clicked through his translator. "Your settlement violated territorial agreements. We followed established protocol." Jake stepped close to the alien commander, his voice low and deadly. "You followed protocol. You killed 8 million people, including children, civilians, families, because of a line on a map. You thought we would accept this. You thought we would negotiate. You were wrong." He gestured to the carnage visible through the station's viewports, where debris and bodies drifted in the void. "This is just the beginning. Every Council facility, every military installation, every ship that stands against us will face the same fate. You wanted to enforce your laws on humanity. Now you'll learn about human law. We call it reciprocity. You kill ours, we kill yours. You declare war on us, we bring that war to your doorstep with interest." Kresh's eyes widened in horror as he understood. "You're going to attack the Council homeworlds. That's genocide. That's against every civilized standard in the galaxy." Jake's laugh was bitter and cold. "You set the standard when you erased New Haven. We're just following the protocol you established. The difference is, we're better at it than you could ever imagine. Humanity has been perfecting the art of war since before your species learned to use tools. We split atoms for power and built bombs that could end worlds. We fought each other for thousands of years and learned every possible way to kill. You picked a fight with the wrong species, Commander. The Marines dragged Kresh away as Jake turned to Kate. Status report on fleet readiness? 90% combat effective, sir. We lost 4 ships, another dozen need repairs. But the rest are ready to continue operations. Admiral Chen is broadcasting coordinates for the next target. It's a Council naval yard in the Kepler system. Jake nodded, feeling the weight of command settle heavier on his shoulders. Each order he gave would result in deaths, alien deaths, but deaths nonetheless. He thought of his sister again, of her children who would never grow up, never fall in love, never see another sunrise. The pain fueled his resolve. Prepare the fleet for immediate departure. We strike while they're still reeling, before they can organize a coordinated defense. The human armada regrouped, damaged ships limping toward the medical frigates, while the bulk of the fleet formed up for the next jump. Throughout the task force, crews worked with grim efficiency, reloading weapons, repairing systems, tending to wounded comrades. They all knew what they were part of, understood the historical weight of these moments. Humanity had been pushed into a corner, and instead of cowering, they had come out swinging with everything they had. In the CIC of the battleship Indomitable, Admiral Chen reviewed the after-action reports with satisfaction. The attack on Enforcement Station Beta had been a complete success, sending a clear message to the Galactic Council while capturing valuable intelligence. Data cores pulled from the station's computers revealed Council fleet positions, defense protocols, and perhaps most importantly, the voting records from Resolution 4719. Now she knew exactly which species had voted to exterminate New Haven and which had abstained or voted against. That information would prove invaluable in the coming weeks. She opened a channel to all ship commanders. Ladies and gentlemen, you've performed brilliantly today. The galaxy is watching, trying to understand what they're seeing. Let me tell you what they're seeing. They're seeing humanity united, angry and absolutely unstoppable. The Council thought we were soft, thought our diplomacy was weakness. They're learning the truth now. We're not soft. We're not weak. We simply chose peace because we knew the cost of war. They've forced us to remember what we're capable of, and they will regret it for whatever brief time they have left. She paused, letting her words sink in across the fleet. Our next target is the Kepler Naval Yards, where the Council constructs its capital ships. We're going to burn it to the ground. We're going to make sure they can't replace what we're about to destroy. And then we're going to keep pushing, keep hitting, keep making them pay, until they beg for terms. Until they understand that humanity is not to be trifled with. Until they learn that every human life is precious, and taking even one comes with consequences they cannot imagine. The fleet jumped to hyperspace, leaving behind the smoking wreck of Enforcement Station Beta as a monument to humanity's wrath. In the station's ruins, alien survivors huddled in damaged compartments, waiting for rescue and trying to process what had just happened. The humans had been among the newest species to join the galactic community, barely 2 generations removed from their first contact. They had seemed eager to learn, willing to follow established rules, happy to find their place in the cosmic order. That illusion had shattered completely. The species that had survived countless existential threats on their homeworld, that had nearly destroyed themselves with nuclear weapons but pulled back from the brink, that had conquered their own violent nature to reach the stars, had been pushed back into savagery. But it wasn't mindless savagery. It was focused, calculated, and terrifyingly effective. News of the attack spread through the Council faster than light, carried by quantum communicators and terrified survivors. Species that had never heard of humanity suddenly learned their names. Ambassadors debated in emergency sessions, trying to understand how a single punitive action had triggered such a violent response. Military advisors pulled up human history files, reading accounts of world wars, nuclear standoffs, and conflicts that had consumed entire continents. The picture that emerged was chilling. Humanity had always been dangerous. They had simply chosen to hide it behind smiles and diplomatic language. Now the mask was off, and the galaxy was seeing the true face of Earth's children. It was the face of a predator species that had climbed to the top of its food chain through intelligence, aggression, and an absolute refusal to accept defeat. The Council had poked the bear, and now the bear was coming for them with claws extended and teeth bared. As the human fleet raced toward its next target, Jake Morrison stood alone in his quarters, staring at a picture of his sister and her family. He'd carry their memory into every battle, let it fuel his determination when exhaustion threatened to overwhelm him. The Council had wanted to make an example of New Haven, to cow humanity into submission. Instead, they had created something far more dangerous. They had given humanity a reason to show the galaxy what 8 billion years of evolution and 10,000 years of warfare had created. They had unleashed Earth's final lesson, and it was a lesson written in fire and blood, a lesson that would be remembered for millennia. Never, ever push humanity to the point where they have nothing left to lose, because when humans stop caring about tomorrow, they become the most terrifying force in the universe. The Council was about to learn this lesson the hard way, and the tuition would be paid in shattered worlds and broken empires. The Kepler Naval Yard sprawled across an asteroid field in the Kepler system, a massive industrial complex where the Galactic Council constructed its largest warships. Dreadnoughts and carriers took shape in the zero-gravity construction bays, serviced by thousands of workers from dozens of species. It was the beating heart of Council naval power, protected by 3 defense platforms and a standing garrison of 50 warships. The facility coordinator, a methodical Tertian named Vex, had received the warning about the human attack on Enforcement Station Beta. She had immediately requested reinforcements and raised the defense condition to maximum alert. Still, she wasn't particularly worried. The yards were far better defended than a simple enforcement station, and her fleet commander assured her that no force of human ships could breach their perimeter. That assessment lasted exactly 4 minutes into the battle. The human fleet emerged from hyperspace not in a single group, but in 3 separate waves, hitting the yards from different vectors simultaneously. The first wave consisted of fast attack craft and missile boats that swarmed the defense platforms, overwhelming their targeting computers with sheer numbers. The second wave, heavy cruisers and destroyers, engaged the Council fleet directly, using tactics that seemed impossibly aggressive. The third wave, the largest, pushed straight for the construction yards themselves. Fleet Commander Dresch watched in growing alarm as his defensive formation disintegrated under the human assault. These weren't the cautious by-the-book tactics he'd studied in the human warfare files. These were the tactics of a species with nothing to lose. Vessels pushing into suicide range to deliver devastating broadsides. Captains using their ships like battering rams when weapons failed. One human destroyer, its engines damaged and life support failing, simply accelerated into a Council cruiser at maximum velocity, the resulting explosion destroying both vessels and crippling 2 more ships caught in the blast radius. "They're insane," Dresch muttered, watching another human ship sacrifice itself to open a gap in the defensive line. "They fight like berserkers." His tactical officer, a young Draxian named Kel, shook his head. "No, sir. They fight like humans. I've been reading their history. This is how they've always fought when pushed to extremes. They call it total war, no holding back. No consideration for cost, only victory matters." Admiral Chen commanded the assault from the battleship Indomitable, her tactical display showing the battle in real time. She watched her ships press the attack with savage efficiency, each captain executing their orders with precision, despite the horrific casualties. Humanity was paying in blood for every meter of space they claimed, but they were claiming it nonetheless. All wings, continue the assault. Engineering teams, prepare breaching equipment. I want those construction facilities intact. We're sending a message here, people. Make it count. Jake Morrison's destroyer Vengeance led the charge into the construction yards themselves. Weaving between unfinished capital ships and dodging fire from automated defense turrets, His ship shuddered as a plasma bolt scorched across the port side, melting armor and killing 3 crew members. He didn't slow down. "Kate, target those worker habitats. Non-lethal ordnance. I want the workers scared, not dead." The Vengeance fired specialized electromagnetic pulse missiles that shut down power systems without causing hull breaches. Across the yards, thousands of alien workers found themselves floating in darkness, their habitat modules dead but intact. The message was clear. The humans could have killed them all but chose not to. This wasn't mindless slaughter. This was controlled fury, violence with purpose. Commander Vex watched her facility die. Construction docks exploded as human missiles found their targets. Partially built dreadnoughts, representing years of work and billions of credits in resources, tumbled away from their moorings, incomplete and useless. The defense platforms were gone, reduced to expanding clouds of debris. Her fleet was scattered, individual ships fighting desperate rearguard actions as they tried to retreat to a safe jump distance. The battle had lasted less than an hour, and already she knew it was over. She activated the facility-wide communication system. "All personnel, this is Coordinator Vex. I'm ordering a general evacuation. Abandon the yards. This is not a drill. Get to the life pods and escape ships immediately. The humans have won." The admission tasted like ash in her mouth, but she had no choice. Staying would only result in unnecessary deaths, and the humans had made it clear they were willing to spare those who surrendered. Her people began flooding toward escape routes, their orderly retreat contrasting sharply with the chaos of the dying facility around them. Jake brought the Vengeance alongside one of the massive construction docks, his Marines already prepped for boarding action. The dock had been building a Council supercarrier, a vessel that would have commanded entire battle groups. Now it would never see service. "Marines, you are cleared to board. Secure the dock and plant the charges. I want this facility completely unusable." The Marines breached the dock's hull and swept through its corridors with practiced efficiency. They encountered minimal resistance, most of the workers having already fled. In the main control room, they found the dock's operating system and uploaded a virus that would corrupt every schematic, every design file, every piece of technical data. When they were done, the Council wouldn't just lose the physical facility, they would lose years of research and development. Sergeant Danny Cooper led his squad through the engineering section, placing demolition charges on key structural supports. They worked quickly, professionally, ignoring the magnificence of the half-built carrier looming above them. It would have been beautiful when finished, a testament to advanced engineering and cooperative effort between species. Now it was just another casualty of war, another price the Council would pay for New Haven. Back on the Vengeance, Kate pulled up a priority transmission from Admiral Chen. "Sir, the Admiral wants to speak with you privately." Jake took the call in his ready room, Chen's holographic image appearing before him. She looked tired, older than she had a few days ago, the weight of command etched into her features. "Commander Morrison, the battle is essentially over. The Council fleet is in full retreat, and the yards are ours." "Good work. Thank you, Admiral. What are our next orders?" Chen hesitated, and Jake recognized that pause. It was the hesitation of someone about to give orders they weren't entirely comfortable with. "Jake, the President and the Joint Chiefs have made a decision. We're going to hit their homeworlds next. Not the Council core worlds, not yet, but the homeworlds of the 5 species that voted most strongly for Resolution 4719. The Draxians, the Valorians, the Tertians, the Kelef, and the Zin. We're going to make examples of them." Jake felt something twist in his gut. "Define examples, Admiral." "Orbital bombardment of military targets. Destruction of their space-based infrastructure. We're not genociding them, but we're going to make it very clear that actions have consequences. The President wants the galaxy to understand that you don't get to vote for the extermination of human civilians and then sleep safely in your beds." The logic was sound, Jake knew. Strategically, it made perfect sense, but morally, it troubled him. "Admiral, won't that make us just as bad as them? We'll be terrorizing innocent civilians." "We're not targeting civilians, Jake. We're targeting military and industrial infrastructure. Yes, there will be economic consequences for their populations. Yes, they'll be scared. But we're not dropping asteroids on cities or using bioweapons. We're conducting military operations against legitimate targets. The difference is intention. We're not trying to exterminate them. We're trying to make them stop fighting us." Jake thought of his sister again, of New Haven's 8 million dead. Chen was right. They needed to end this war decisively, quickly, before more humans died. Half measures wouldn't work against an enemy that had already shown its willingness to commit genocide. "Understood, Admiral. When do we move?" 48 hours. "The fleet needs time to repair and rearm. We're consolidating forces from across human space for this operation. It'll be the largest military action humanity has ever undertaken. Every available ship, every resource we can spare. We're going all in." The call ended and Jake sat alone with his thoughts. In 2 days, the war would escalate beyond anything the galaxy had seen in centuries. Humanity was going to strike at the heart of 5 different civilizations simultaneously, demonstrating power projection capabilities that would shock the Council. It was bold, aggressive, and absolutely terrifying. It was also necessary. The Council needed to learn that they couldn't bully humanity, couldn't wipe out millions of people, and expect no consequences. Throughout the fleet, similar conversations were happening. Captains briefed their crews. Engineers worked frantically to repair battle damage. Weapons officers inventoried their depleted magazines and requisitioned more missiles, more railgun slugs, more energy cells. The human war machine was revealing itself in all its terrible efficiency. Years of preparation for conflicts that never came now paying dividends in blood and fire. In the ruins of the Kepler naval yards, Coordinator Vex floated in an escape pod, watching human ships methodically demolish the facility she'd spent 20 years building. Explosions rippled through the construction docks as demolition charges detonated, sending massive structural components tumbling into the asteroid field. The partially built supercarrier broke apart, its incomplete hull unable to withstand the forces acting on it. Decades of work, trillions of credits in investment, countless hours of skilled labor, all destroyed in a single afternoon by an angry species the Council had dismissed as insignificant. She activated her pod's communicator, sending a message to Council High Command. "This is Coordinator Vex from Kepler Yards. The facility is lost. The humans have destroyed everything. Their tactics are unlike anything we've faced before. They fight with complete disregard for their own losses, focusing only on mission completion. They're not trying to defeat our forces in traditional engagements. They're trying to break our ability and will to fight, and they're succeeding." The message transmitted, and Vex closed her eyes, trying to process the magnitude of what she'd witnessed. The galaxy was changing. The old order, the Council's presumed dominance, the idea that newer species would naturally defer to older civilizations, all of it was crumbling. Humanity had torn down the curtain and revealed the truth. The Council's power rested on the assumption that no one would seriously challenge them. Now someone had, and they were doing it with a level of violence and determination that made traditional warfare look like a polite disagreement. The human ships finished their work and began forming up for departure. Vex watched them go, hundreds of warships moving with parade ground precision despite the recent battle. They'd taken losses, yes, but not enough to slow them down. Not enough to make them reconsider. They were going to keep coming, keep hitting, keep destroying until the Council capitulated or humanity was wiped out. And from what Vex had seen today, she wasn't confident about the Council's chances. Admiral Chen surveyed her battered but victorious fleet and allowed herself a moment of satisfaction. 2 major Council facilities destroyed, thousands of enemy combatants killed or captured, and humanity's message delivered with crystal clarity. The Council had wanted to see what humans would do when pushed. Now they knew. But this was just the opening act. The real statement would come in 48 hours, when human fleets appeared simultaneously over 5 different alien homeworlds and showed the galaxy what 8 million murdered humans were worth. She opened a fleet-wide channel. All ships secure from battle stations. Begin damage control and casualty recovery. Well done, everyone. You've made humanity proud today. Get some rest while you can. In 2 days, we're going to make history. Chen out. The fleet jumped to hyperspace, leaving behind another monument to human wrath. The Kepler naval yards would never build another ship. The message was spreading faster than light now, carried by survivors and terrified observers. Humanity was coming, and nothing could stop them. The age of council dominance was ending, ushered out by a species that had climbed from caves to conquer the stars, and who now showed the galaxy why apex predators should never be cornered. The countdown to the homeworld strikes began, and across human space, every man, woman, and child watched the news feeds with grim pride. Their species had been wronged, and their species was responding, not with words or sanctions or diplomatic protests, but with the one language the universe truly understood: force. Overwhelming, unstoppable, terrifying force. And the Council was about to receive a masterclass in human warfare that would echo through history for thousands of years. The coordinated assault on 5 alien homeworlds simultaneously required logistics that pushed humanity to its absolute limits. Every shipyard in human space worked around the clock. Every resource was marshaled. Every able-bodied crew member was called to duty. The operation was codenamed Olympus Wrath, and it represented the largest military mobilization in human history. 5 separate task forces, each numbering over 400 ships, prepared to strike at the heart of the civilizations that had voted to exterminate New Haven. The military targets were carefully selected: orbital defense platforms, military shipyards, weapons manufacturing facilities, and defensive fleet assets. Civilian population centers would be avoided, but the economic and military impact would be devastating. Jake Morrison found himself assigned to Task Force 3, designated to strike the Valorian homeworld of Valoria Prime. The Valoronians had been among the most vocal supporters of Resolution 4719, their representative arguing that humanity's expansion threatened established territorial boundaries. Now they would learn the consequences of that vote. The Vengeance was part of a massive armada that included battleships, carriers, destroyers, and specialized bombardment vessels carrying kinetic strike weapons. The sheer scale of the force was designed to overwhelm any defense and complete the mission before the Council could mount an effective counterattack. Admiral Patricia Hayes commanded Task Force 3 from the super battleship Washington, the largest warship humanity had ever built. She was a veteran of the Mars Rebellion 30 years prior, one of the few officers with actual combat experience against organized military forces. Her tactical briefing was crisp and professional, delivered to all ship commanders via secure quantum link. Ladies and gentlemen, our objectives are clear. We will neutralize Valoria Prime's orbital defenses, destroy their military shipyards, and eliminate their home fleet. We will not target civilian structures or population centers. This is a military operation, not a massacre. We are not the Council. We do not murder innocents. But make no mistake, we will be thorough. When we leave Valorian space, their ability to project military power will be reduced to 0. The 5 task forces jumped to hyperspace simultaneously, a coordinated strike timed to the second. The Council's intelligence networks detected the massive fleet movements, but couldn't determine the targets until it was too late. By the time Valorian Defense Command realized what was happening, the human fleet was already emerging from hyperspace at the edge of their home system, weapons hot and targeting solutions locked. High Commander Thex of the Valorian home fleet watched in horror as sensor readings resolved into the largest attack force ever seen in this region of space. 412 human warships, arrayed in perfect formation, accelerating toward Valoria Prime with clear hostile intent. His fleet numbered 150 ships, a force considered more than adequate to defend the homeworld against any conventional threat. But this was no conventional threat. This was humanity, Enraged and unleashed. "All ships to battle stations," Thex ordered. "Activate orbital defense grid. Send emergency transmission to Council Fleet Command. We are under attack by a massive human force. Request immediate reinforcements." Even as he gave the orders, he knew reinforcements wouldn't arrive in time. The nearest Council fleet was 3 days away at maximum speed. His ships would have to hold alone, or die trying. The human fleet didn't slow, didn't attempt communication, didn't offer surrender terms. They simply attacked with overwhelming force and terrifying precision. The first wave consisted of missile boats that launched thousands of long-range weapons, saturating Valorian defenses with more targets than their systems could track. The second wave, heavy cruisers and battleships, closed to energy weapon range and began systematically destroying orbital defense platforms. The third wave, specialized bombardment ships, positioned themselves for strike operations against surface targets. Commander Thex tried to organize a coherent defense, but the humans had studied Valorian tactics and anticipated every move. When he concentrated his forces to protect the orbital shipyards, human destroyers slipped through gaps in the formation and attacked from unexpected vectors. When he dispersed his fleet to cover more area, the human battleships broke through in concentrated spearheads and carved through his scattered forces. It was like fighting smoke, the enemy everywhere and nowhere simultaneously. Jake watched the battle unfold from the Vengeance's bridge with grim satisfaction. The Valorians were competent, well-trained, and equipped with advanced technology. But they had never faced an opponent like humanity, a species that had turned warfare into a science over thousands of years of constant conflict. Human tactics were built on lessons learned in Blood on Earth, refined through countless wars and analyzed by the best strategic minds humanity produced. The Valorians were learning the hard way that technology alone wasn't enough. You needed experience, adaptability, and the willingness to pay the butcher's bill. "All squadrons report ready for surface strike operations," Kate called from her station. "Bombardment ships have achieved optimal positioning." "Waiting for your order, sir." Jake took a deep breath. This was the moment. Once he gave this order, there was no taking it back. Kinetic weapons would rain down on Valeria Prime's surface, destroying military installations and industrial facilities. The Valorian economy would be crippled. Their people would suffer. But New Haven's people had suffered too, and they hadn't been given a choice. Execute Strike Package Alpha. All designated military targets. Verify clear of civilian areas before each strike. The bombardment ships unleashed hell. Tungsten rods, each weighing several tons and accelerated to incredible velocities, fell from orbit like spears thrown by angry gods. They struck with the force of tactical nuclear weapons, vaporizing everything within hundreds of meters of impact and causing devastation that spread for kilometers. Military bases disappeared in blinding flashes. Weapons factories collapsed into rubble. Shipyards that had built Valorian warships for centuries were reduced to twisted metal and craters. The planet's surface burned as humanity demonstrated what controlled fury looked like when backed by the physics of orbital bombardment. On Valeria Prime, billions of citizens watched in terror as their sky filled with fire. The impacts were visible from across the planet, mushroom clouds rising where proud military installations had stood moments before. Communication networks went down as relay stations were destroyed. Power grids failed as generating stations were eliminated. In the capital city of Thexia, Planetary Governor Drex watched the devastation through his office windows, his heart beating rapidly in fear. His entire defensive infrastructure was being systematically dismantled by an enemy that struck from beyond the atmosphere with impunity. He activated the emergency broadcast system. "People of Valeria Prime, this is your governor. We are under attack by human forces, in retaliation for our role in Resolution 4719. I am authorizing all civilian populations to seek shelter immediately. Military personnel are ordered to stand down. Further resistance is pointless and will only result in additional casualties. I am preparing surrender terms to transmit to the human fleet." Commander Thex received the governor's transmission with a mixture of relief and shame. His fleet was shattered, barely 30 ships still combat-capable. The orbital defenses were gone. The human fleet controlled the high ground and could continue bombardment indefinitely. Continuing the fight would be suicide, and it wouldn't save anything. He opened a channel to the human flagship. "This is High Commander Thex of the Valorian Home Fleet to human forces. We surrender. Cease fire. Please, cease fire." Admiral Hayes received the surrender request and immediately issued the order. "All ships, weapons hold. Bombardment vessels, terminate strike operations. Communications, verify with all squadron commanders that firing has ceased." The sudden silence was almost shocking after the chaos of battle. Hayes studied the tactical display, satisfied with the results. Valorian military capacity had been reduced to near zero, and they'd accomplished it with minimal civilian casualties. "Open channel to Commander Thex." Thex's image appeared on the main screen, his face showing multiple expressions of defeat. "Admiral Hayes, I formally surrender Valorian Home Fleet and all military forces under my command. What are your terms?" Hayes kept her expression neutral. "Complete demilitarization of your orbital space. All surviving warships to be moved to designated coordinates, and their weapon systems disabled. All planetary defense installations to be deactivated. Council representatives on your world to be taken into custody for war crimes tribunals. Full cooperation with human occupation forces until peace terms are negotiated. Comply immediately or we resume bombardment." "We comply," Thex said quietly. "No more death. Please, no more." Similar scenes played out simultaneously across 4 other star systems. At the Draxian homeworld, Task Force 1 under Admiral Marcus Stone reduced their orbital infrastructure to rubble before the defenders could mount an effective response. At Tertia, Task Force 2 systematically eliminated every military asset in the system while broadcasting footage of New Haven's destruction on all frequencies. At the Caliph homeworld, Task Force 4 demonstrated humanity's precision by conducting surgical strikes that destroyed military targets while leaving civilian areas completely untouched. At Zin, Task Force 5 faced the stiffest resistance but ultimately overwhelmed the defenders through sheer numerical superiority and superior tactics. By the end of the day, 5 alien civilizations had been brought to their knees. The military might that the Galactic Council had relied upon for security was broken, shattered by a human war machine that had been unleashed with a single purpose: make them pay. News of the attacks spread across the galaxy at the speed of light, transmitted by quantum communicators and carried by terrified survivors. Every species in the Council suddenly reevaluated their relationship with humanity. Jake stood on the bridge of the Vengeance, watching Valoria Prime slowly rotate below them. Scars of human wrath visible even from orbit. He felt no satisfaction, only a hollow emptiness. They'd won a tremendous victory, but the cost in alien lives had been significant. Military personnel, yes, but still sentient beings, with families and dreams. He thought of his sister, wondered if she would have approved of this revenge. Would she have wanted this much blood spilled in her name? Betrayed approached quietly. "Sir, Admiral Hayes is requesting all senior officers report to the Washington for debriefing in 2 hours. Also, you have a personal message from Earth. It's from your father." Jake took the message chip and retreated to his quarters. His father's face appeared on the screen, aged and weary but proud. "Son, I've been watching the reports. I know this must be hard on you, leading men into battle, making decisions that result in deaths. I want you to know that your sister would be proud. She always believed in doing what was right, even when it was hard. What the Council did was wrong. What you're doing to stop them is necessary. Don't lose sight of that. We're proud of you, Jake. All of Earth is proud. Come home safe." The message ended, and Jake felt some of the weight lift from his shoulders. His father was right. This was necessary. The Council had to learn they couldn't commit genocide without consequences. If humanity didn't respond with overwhelming force, they would be seen as weak, vulnerable, a target for any species that wanted to take what humans had built. Strength was the only language the galaxy truly understood, and humanity had just given a lesson that would be remembered for millennia. Admiral Chen transmitted from Earth Command, her image appearing on every ship's screen throughout the 5 task forces. Commanders, officers, crew, you have performed magnificently today. Operation Olympus Wrath is a complete success. 5 alien homeworlds have been neutralized as military threats. The Galactic Council is in chaos, their member species questioning whether continuing hostilities with humanity is wise. We have demonstrated that Earth's children will not be pushed around, will not accept genocide passively, will respond to threats with overwhelming force. She paused, her expression softening slightly. But this is not the end. The Council still has significant military forces. Hardliners will call for escalation. The war will continue until we achieve our objectives: recognition of human sovereignty, reparations for New Haven, and guarantees that such aggression will never happen again. Rest now. Repair your ships. Mourn your fallen comrades, but be ready. The galaxy is watching, and we must show them that humanity's resolve is unbreakable. Across 5-star systems, human ships began the tedious work of occupation and security. Marines landed on planets to secure military facilities. Engineers assessed damage to infrastructure. Medical personnel treated wounded prisoners. Diplomatic teams began the delicate process of negotiating with local governments. It was a massive undertaking that would tie up resources for months, but it was essential. Humanity couldn't just strike and leave. They had to ensure these civilizations couldn't rearm and threaten humans again. Jake received orders assigning the Vengeance to occupation duty over Valoria Prime for the next month. It would be boring work after the intensity of combat, but necessary. He addressed his crew over the ship's internal communication system. All hands, this is the captain. We've been assigned to security patrol in Valorian space. I know it's not glamorous work, but it's important. We need to make sure the Valorians comply with surrender terms and don't attempt any hostile action. Stay sharp. Stay professional. We're representing all of humanity here. Morrison out. As the ship settled into a patrol orbit, Jake gazed down at Valoria Prime and thought about the future. The war would continue. Battles would be fought. People would die. But eventually, peace would come. It always did. And when it came, humanity would have its place at the galactic table, respected and feared, never again to be dismissed as insignificant. The Council had wanted to make an example of New Haven. Instead, they'd created a legend. The legend of humanity's wrath, of Earth's terrible swift sword, of the species that refused to be conquered. It was a legend written in fire and blood across 5-star systems, a legend that would shape galactic politics for generations to come. And at its heart was a simple truth that the Council had learned too late. Never push humanity too far. Because when humans stop caring about the cost, they become the most dangerous force in the universe. The surrender of 5 homeworlds sent shockwaves through the Galactic Council that dwarfed even the initial reports of human aggression. What had seemed like an angry response to Resolution 4719 now revealed itself as something far more calculated and terrifying. Humanity hadn't lashed out blindly. They had identified the primary supporters of genocide, isolated them, and struck with surgical precision across vast distances simultaneously. The level of coordination required for such an operation suggested military capabilities and strategic planning that exceeded Council estimates by orders of magnitude. In the Council chambers on the neutral world of Concordia, emergency sessions ran around the clock as representatives from dozens of species tried to comprehend the disaster unfolding around them. The Draxian ambassador, speaking through a translator with a trembling voice, addressed the assembly. "My homeworld burns. Our orbital infrastructure is destroyed. Our fleet is scattered. And the humans accomplished this in less than a day. We were warned that humanity was dangerous, that their history was soaked in warfare. We dismissed these warnings as exaggeration. We were wrong. So very wrong. The Tertian representative stood, her multiple limbs gesturing emphatically. This is not just military defeat. This is psychological warfare on a massive scale. They struck our homeworlds, the sacred centers of our civilizations, places we thought untouchable. Every species in the Council is now questioning whether they might be next. The humans have destroyed our sense of security. Councillor Vrex, one of the senior members who had abstained from the vote on Resolution 4719, demanded order. The question before us is simple. Do we escalate or negotiate? The humans have made their point. They can strike anywhere, anytime, and we cannot stop them without massive losses. But if we sue for peace now, we appear weak. Every client species, every annexed world, every subject population will see that the Council can be defeated. Our entire structure of governance could collapse. Ambassador Krell, representing one of the founding Council species, rose slowly. His people had been spacefaring for over 10,000 years, had seen empires rise and fall, had witnessed countless wars. He spoke with the weight of that experience. I have studied humanity's history extensively since this crisis began. They have a saying, peace through strength. They do not respect diplomatic niceties or legal frameworks, unless backed by power. We attempted to enforce our laws on them through violence, and they responded by demonstrating they possess greater capacity for violence than we imagined. If we continue this war, we will lose. Perhaps not immediately, perhaps not without inflicting terrible casualties on them, but ultimately, we will lose. The chamber erupted in angry debate. Younger species, those who had never faced serious military defeat, called for mobilization of the entire Council fleet. Older species, those who remembered the costs of total war, urged caution. The Kelef representative, her homeworld still under human occupation, pleaded for immediate negotiations. The Zin delegate, consumed by rage at his species' humiliation, demanded revenge at any cost. The Council was fracturing, each species calculating its own interests versus the collective good. On Earth, President Jennifer Cole watched the intelligence reports flow in from agents embedded throughout Council space. The strategic situation was exactly as planned. The Council was divided, weakened, uncertain of how to proceed. Now was the moment to press the advantage while maintaining the moral high ground. She opened a secure channel to Admiral Chen. Admiral, initiate Phase 2. It's time to offer them a way out. Admiral Chen nodded. Yes, Madam President. Transmitting now. The message went out on all frequencies, broadcast across the entire galaxy in every major language. It was simple, direct, and backed by the smoking ruins of 5 homeworlds. President Cole's face appeared on screens across thousands of worlds. People of the galaxy, this is President Jennifer Cole of the United Earth Government. 3 weeks ago, the Galactic Council voted to exterminate a human colony world, murdering 8 million innocent civilians. This act of genocide demanded a response. We have delivered that response by demonstrating that humanity will not be bullied, will not accept the murder of our people, and possesses the capacity to strike back with overwhelming force. She paused, letting the words sink in. However, humanity does not seek endless war. We do not wish to become conquerors or tyrants. We want only what any species wants: security for our people, recognition of our sovereignty, and justice for crimes committed against us. To that end, I am proposing peace terms. The Galactic Council will formally apologize for Resolution 4719 and recognize it as an act of genocide. Reparations will be paid to the families of New Haven's victims. The 5 species who voted most strongly for genocide will undergo demilitarization and accept human oversight of their military reconstruction. In return, human forces will withdraw from occupied territories, and we will join the galactic community as full partners, not subordinates. These terms are non-negotiable. You have 72 hours to respond. The transmission ended, and the galaxy held its breath. President Cole had given the Council a way to save face while accepting defeat. The question was whether pride would override survival instincts. In his quarters aboard the Vengeance, Jake watched the president's speech and felt a glimmer of hope. Maybe this could end without more bloodshed. Maybe New Haven's dead could rest knowing their deaths had not been in vain, that humanity had stood up and refused to be victims. The 72 hours crawled by with agonizing slowness. On Valoria Prime, Governor Drex immediately transmitted acceptance of the terms, his people having no stomach for further conflict. The Draxians followed quickly, their military shattered and their economy in ruins. The Tertians and Kelef added their voices within the first day. Only the Zin held out, their pride refusing to accept such complete capitulation. Within the council chambers, debate raged. Hardliners argued that acceptance would destroy the council's authority. Moderates pointed out that rejection would result in the complete destruction of multiple civilizations. The mathematics of the situation were brutal. Humanity had committed approximately 30% of their total military capacity to Operation Olympus Wrath. They still had enormous reserves, while the Council had lost significant forces and would need months to mobilize additional fleets from distant sectors. Councillor Vrex finally forced a vote. The choice is simple. Accept these terms, or watch as humanity systematically dismantles our civilization world by world. I have reviewed human history. They are capable of total war, of fighting to the last person if necessary. They split their own planet's atoms and nearly destroyed themselves rather than surrender. Do we really believe they will hesitate to do worse to us? I vote to accept. The vote was close, but ultimately practical concerns won out. 60% of the council species voted to accept President Cole's terms. The hardliners, including the Zin, voted against, but were outvoted. The official council response came with just hours to spare before the deadline. The Galactic Council formally recognizes that Resolution 4719 was an error in judgment that resulted in unacceptable loss of life. We apologize to humanity for this action and accept the proposed terms for peace. Negotiations will begin immediately to finalize the details. Across human space, people celebrated. Ships sounded their horns. Cities erupted in spontaneous parties. The war was over. They had won. Not through conquest or genocide, but through demonstrating strength and offering peace. It was the best possible outcome given the circumstances. Admiral Chen transmitted to all human forces: stand down from combat operations. Maintain defensive posture, but do not initiate hostilities. Well done, everyone. You've made history. Jake felt the tension drain from his body as the ceasefire orders came through. Around him, his crew cheered and embraced, their relief palpable. Kate approached with a rare smile. We did it, sir. We actually did it. We made them listen. Yeah, Jake agreed. We made them listen by burning 5 homeworlds and killing thousands of their people. That's not exactly something to be proud of. No, Kate said quietly. But it's something to remember, both for us and for them. They'll never forget what happens when you push humanity too far. And we'll never forget what we're capable of when we're pushed. Maybe that's the real lesson here. The negotiations took weeks, conducted on a neutral space station with representatives from Earth and the Council meeting under the watchful eyes of the galaxy. The details were complex, but the core terms remained unchanged. The Council formally apologized for New Haven. Reparations totaling trillions of credits were established, to be paid over the next century. The 5 aggressive species accepted military restrictions and human advisory roles in their defense departments. In return, humanity joined the Galactic Council as a full-member species with veto power over any resolution affecting human interests. Most importantly, the Treaty of Concordia, as it came to be known, established new protocols for dispute resolution that emphasized negotiation over force. The Council had learned that ruling through fear and violence only worked until you encountered someone capable of greater violence. A new model was needed, one based on mutual respect and recognition of each species' right to exist and expand within reasonable boundaries. Jake Morrison returned to Earth 6 months after New Haven's destruction, his ship finally relieved from occupation duty. He stood in the memorial that had been erected at the site where New Haven's colony ship had launched years before. 8 million names were engraved on walls of black stone, his sisters and her families among them. He placed his hand on her name, feeling the cool stone beneath his fingers. "We made them pay, Sarah," he whispered. "We made sure the galaxy knows that human lives matter, that we won't be pushed around. I hope that's enough. I hope you can rest now." He didn't know if the dead could hear him, didn't know if there was anything beyond the void of death. But saying the words helped. The war had cost him pieces of himself that he'd never get back. He'd given orders that resulted in deaths, had watched friends die, had become someone he barely recognized. But humanity was safe. Future generations would grow up in a galaxy that respected Earth's children, that knew the cost of threatening them, that had to be worth something. President Cole gave a speech at the 1-year anniversary of New Haven's fall. "We cannot bring back the dead. We cannot undo the tragedy that befell New Haven, but we can honor their memory by building a future where such tragedies cannot happen again." The Galactic Council has learned that humanity will defend itself with every resource at our disposal. We hope they have also learned that we prefer peace to war, cooperation to conflict, dialogue to destruction. The past year has shown both the best and worst of what humanity can be. Going forward, let us strive to show the galaxy our best, while never forgetting the strength that protects our worst from those who would destroy us. The speech resonated across Earth and its colonies. Humanity had been tested and had passed, though at terrible cost. The war had unified the species in ways that decades of peace never could have. Humans now saw themselves not as citizens of individual nations, but as members of a species, united against a universe that had proven itself hostile. That unity would shape humanity's future in ways no one could fully predict. Admiral Chen retired after the war, her place in history secure as the commander who had broken the Galactic Council's power. In her final address to the fleet, she said something that would be quoted for generations. "We fought not because we wanted war, but because peace required it. We killed not from hatred, but from necessity. We destroyed not for conquest, but for survival. Remember this always. Humanity's capacity for violence is matched only by our capacity for compassion. We are capable of terrible things when threatened, but we would prefer to build rather than destroy. The galaxy now knows both sides of our nature. Let us show them the better side in the years to come." 10 years after the Treaty of Concordia, the memorial on New Haven's former colony site received an unusual visitor, a Valorian named Kresh. The same one who had commanded Enforcement Station Beta, stood before the wall of names. He had served his sentence in a human prison, had been treated fairly despite his role in the genocide. Now, released and free to return home, he chose instead to come here. He placed a small stone at the base of the memorial, a Valorian custom for honoring the dead. "I am sorry," he said softly. "I followed orders. I enforced our laws. But I did not understand what I was destroying. I did not understand that each name here represented a universe of experiences, relationships, dreams. I understand now. Humanity taught me. I hope someday my people and yours can move beyond what happened. But this place will always remind us of the cost of blind obedience to unjust laws." He left quietly, and the stone remained, a small gesture that somehow felt monumental. Humanity had not just won a war. They had changed hearts and minds across the galaxy. Not all minds, certainly. There were species that still hated humans, that plotted revenge, that saw the treaty as humiliation rather than justice. But enough minds had changed, enough hearts had learned. The galaxy was different now, and humanity had earned its place among the stars not through military might alone, but through demonstrating both strength and mercy, both fury and forgiveness. Jake Morrison, now a captain commanding a new ship, passed by New Haven's memorial whenever his duties brought him to Earth. He always stopped, always spent a few minutes looking at his sister's name. The pain had dulled over the years, transformed from sharp agony to a persistent ache that he had learned to carry. He had a family now, children who would grow up in a safer galaxy because of what he and thousands of others had done. That was enough. It had to be enough. The galaxy moved on, as it always did. New crises emerged, new challenges arose, new conflicts threatened the peace. But the lesson of New Haven remained, carved not just in black stone but in the collective memory of every species in the Council. There were costs to aggression, prices to be paid for genocide, consequences for pushing peaceful species into war. Humanity had written that lesson in fire and blood across 5-star systems, and the galaxy would not forget it for 1,000 years. The age of casual dominance by elder species was over. A new era had begun, one where humanity stood as equals, respected and feared in equal measure. A species that preferred peace but would bring war with unmatched ferocity when threatened. And in the end, that balance, that tension between peace and power, defined humanity's place among the stars and ensured that New Haven's dead had not died in vain.